So we're going to pretend that I'm rocking this lipstick. And if there's any on my teeth, that's just a side effect of dark lipstick. I still look good. Hello my darlings, and welcome back to my channel. Today, we are going to talk about Carrie. If you don't follow me on Instagram, you may not know, but at the beginning of this year, I decided that I was going to reread all of Stephen King's books in chronological order, because there were a couple of books of his that I haven't read, and there are some that I've been dying to reread, so what better way than to read them all in the order that he published them. This is also including his Richard Bachman books, short stories, collections, all of the books that are listed under him now. I literally went and looked up a list so that I could see which years that they were each published in. So obviously if you don't follow me on Instagram, make sure that you do. I decided to do this and I had a contest about what we would call my read-along, and we're calling it Christy Hails to the King. Now, obviously, I haven't read that many of his books so far this year. I'm on the fourth one in real time. Yeah. I've been a really crappy reader this year. But anyway, if you're gonna start a Stephen King read-along, you have to start at the beginning. And the beginning was Carrie. Now, Carrie, if you don't know, is a book about a girl that is made fun of a lot. She's bullied, she has this very religious mother, but Carrie also has telekinesis, and that means that she can move things with her mind. And all of this comes to a head at prom, when she moves a lot of things with her mind. Also, you should beware that there will likely be a lot of spoilers, since this is less of an actual review and more of my feelings and takeaways as a writer and as a very huge fan of Stephen King. So there will likely be spoilers. I will probably not try to keep from being spoilers because I actually want this series to be a discussion. So if you haven't read Carrie, then hop onto it. That way you can come back and we can talk about it. And if you have read Carrie, then the comment section is open down below for you to tell me what you thought of Carrie. Whether you agree with me. That's not the best. Ears are super red, dude. What the heck? Also, get it together. Get your life together. Thank you. Carrie is written from a bunch of different points of view along with the actual story, and it also includes things like newspaper clippings and interviews and all of these tiny little tidbits of information that are scattered throughout the book. So while you're reading Carrie's story, you're also reading the aftermath of everything that Carrie does. And for me, that's not the most enjoyable experience. Now the funny thing about Carrie and about this read-along to begin with is that I actually put this off for quite a while because Carrie is not my favorite book. I actually really dreaded reading Carrie because the first time that I read it, I knew that it wasn't really my favorite. There's a lot of different reasons for why it's not my favorite, quite a few that I'll discuss, but I really put off rereading Stephen King's books that I had read because I knew that Carrie was first. Carrie's not my favorite. The first time that I read Carrie, I think maybe the reason that the book didn't really sit well with me was because I never connected with Carrie. Carrie just seemed like a really throwaway character. I just didn't feel sorry for her. And in some ways I think Stephen King might have plotted for that. He may have, tried for that, because for me, Carrie's not a sympathetic character, despite having many reasons for why she should be. First off, she's bullied. We see that from the very first page. Carrie is bullied relentlessly, and I can relate to being bullied. I was once told I couldn't wear shorts because I wasn't hot enough. Middle school kids are cruel. But she's bullied. She has this crazy religious mother that will literally lock her in a closet. Carrie is made to be a sympathetic character, and yet I just don't feel for Carrie. I sound like one of her bullies, to be honest. But I just really find her annoying, and I guess in that way I feel what everyone else felt about Carrie, and maybe that's part of why he made her that way. Or maybe I'm giving him too much credit. You will find out over this series that I am a huge Stephen King fan. I have nothing but the utmost respect for him. And even when I don't like something of his, there is usually something in it that I like, even if it's just the writing itself. Because I think that he is the master, and we all should hail him. I'm also not saying that your main character has to be sympathetic, or that you even have to relate to your main character, or that readers have to relate to your main character, because there are plenty of books out there where the main character is a complete dick or stupid or just not relatable at all, and they're still good books. And I'm not even saying that Carrie is a bad book. I'm just saying that Carrie's not my favorite book. And it's really not. I guess also one of the things that may have stuck with me for the reread, not the first time I read it, was finding out that King wasn't even a huge fan of Carrie himself, that he didn't really enjoy writing it. He tossed her in the trash, if I'm right. It was Tabitha that actually took the story out of the trash and told him that he needed to finish writing it. So, kind of having my own experience with that, with my first novel, Weeping Willow, I also advise you not to read that book. Having that experience, though, with my own novel, kind of made me think about that when I was reading it this time, because it sort of feels as if you're reading a book that's being restricted. As if maybe King was feeling trapped while he had to write this book, or even that maybe he was holding off on going full force, which I can also understand with a lot of books, because seeing as I write them, I know what it's like to be afraid to write what you want to, because you don't know if you're going to go too far or if anyone's even interested. So I think the knowledge that he already wasn't a big fan of this book, was his first book that was published. I don't know, maybe part of that was sort of jaded for me because I understood it. But I don't know. I'm also not a really big fan of the breaks that are in the book. It feels like filler, and I know what filler is because I've added quite a bit to my own stories in the past. But it feels like he wrote Carrie's story and then was like, this is really short. Let me add this. People want to know what happened after. And to be fair, I really didn't care. Most of it it took me out of the actual story. And from a story that was already hard for me to get through in the first place, each time it would go to this article or anything like that, it usually just completely ruined whatever progress I was making. So, I don't know, it feels like he was trying to hit a certain word count, and maybe that's why those things were added. It doesn't feel as if it's very beneficial to the story. Now, obviously, opinions, everyone's got them. Some people out there may read Carrie and go, yes, I needed to know that. You know what? I needed to know that Carrie was a fat pig. I also feel like it's a book where Stephen King just kind of held back with it. And for a book that small and with that subject matter, and for King to be who he is, for some of the stuff he's written, for Stephen King to have ever had a time where he held back is a very stark difference to the King that we now know and love. And I think that's also one of the reasons why I wanted to do this relong, is because I want to see his evolution as a writer. And I think this is one of the more accurate ways to do that. One of the more accurate ways to do that would be to read the books as he wrote them. I don't think there's any real way to know what order he wrote the books in, and especially with his short stories, that would be a pain to figure out exactly when he wrote each one. Creatively, I do think it's a unique idea, and I think that it's also a trope in its own, because a lot of people have duplicated Carrie in their own ways. You know, a bullied young girl that goes psycho, kills everybody. It's been used quite a few times. And although I have quite a few negatives about this book, I also have positives. Like, one of them being that if this book had not been published, we may not know Stephen King as he stands today. So I will always be thankful that Carrie was his first book and that Carrie was published, because we got King out of that. And I can't imagine a world without Stephen King. I might not be a writer if it wasn't for Stephen King. Certainly not a horror writer. I'll tell you that much. We're going to pretend that wasn't awkward. Also, with everything that I have said, I don't think Carrie is a bad book. It has heart. There were times that I did feel for Carrie. And I always did feel something. Especially annoyance. King, though, as a storyteller, can rip out your heart when he wants to. So I guess that's one of the reasons why Carrie doesn't work so much for me, because I know what King can do when he sits down and writes. And he didn't do it with Carrie. I will say that one of the things I like the most about Carrie is probably her relationship with her mother. I love that it's shown so accurately for me to be with someone that is suppressive and crazy, someone that doesn't have any type of genuine feeling for you and still love them. I think I can relate to that quite a bit. So that aspect of the book I really do like. And I wish that maybe it had gone a little deeper into that instead, because it feels like it glosses over quite a bit, despite her and her mother's relationship being one of the more explored topics in the book. It still feels as if he rushed through it, probably to get done with this book, since he didn't enjoy writing it that much. Although my quest to reread Stephen King's books starts at a very low point, I would give this book 3 out of 5 stars. I am still glad that I did reread it, because I do think I enjoyed it more this time than I did before, despite what I knew about him not liking to write Carrie and things like that. I do still like the book. It's just not one that I like to reread. I like that I've read it. I just don't want to read it again. Although I'm sure someday in the future I will, because I do that a lot. But anyway, that is my review and discussion for Carrie. And next time we will go on to Salem's Lot, a book I actually do enjoy. So until then, make sure that you subscribe to my channel. Follow me on all of my social medias that are linked down below. That's all I've got for you today, guys. I will see you next time. Kisses, my darlings.